Welcome to Spider-Man 2 for the Game Boy Color, the Sinister 6, and I love this game. So the mechanics and controls here are pretty simple. We can jump, we can punch, and we can shoot web. Web just stuns enemies for us, like this guy holding a gun, who would shoot us otherwise. He looks a lot like Jameson, but that's a coincidence. The manual actually describes him as someone who just shoots people because he can. So we latch onto walls just by running into them or jumping on them, and we move around the walls just by pressing up or left or right. And it does corners for us, we don't have to worry about those. We have to activate 3 of those panels to progress. All of the enemies, or most of them, have a downward attack, so even if we're ducking, they can still hit us. The only character I believe without a downward attack is the guy with the gun, who will just shoot right over our head when we duck. I really like the music and graphics in this game. Both of them are vibrant, if that makes sense. Also, we can web swing! No, we don't web swing by attaching ourselves to anything. But this is a game on the Game Boy Color, give it a break. It still has web swinging, and it's super fun. You just press A repeatedly to do it. We pressed all 3 control panels, which means... after I kill this clown, which means we now have access to the sewers. The sewers are not to the right. They're to the left. I just wanted to hop over here to show you that there is stuff over here, even if it's not necessary to look at. These little spider emblems refill our webbing. Now, if we have an over-reliance on webbing, that would be useful, but we don't use it very much. I'll try to use it at least a few times. The webbing is absolutely necessary for a few boss fights. So don't forget about it entirely, or that will prove disastrous. We can do a running kick to start combat with an enemy long before they even touch us. Pretty useful. We can detach from walls instantly by pressing the jump button. Gotta keep that in mind. You don't press a direction to detach, you press the jump button. And just the jump button, not the jump button in a direction. Now that we bypassed the block, we've got to get back to the surface. It's up to you how long you spend down there, because there are some goodies. But the surface is much more interesting to look at. And yes, the webbing does trap enemies that are off the screen. Thankfully. Makes it much more useful. Whether Spider-Man does those fancy kicks is entirely up to chance. It's just one of his hitting animations. There's nothing special about it, it doesn't deal more damage or anything. We need to stay up high to reach the boss, we can't reach it from the ground level. Which is why we're constantly hitting our head against the top of the screen here. This tower is in the way, but as soon as we climb up the other side, we just go back to web swinging. I believe those guys' bullets travel infinitely. And here's the boss fight, it's Mysterio, and he shoots clones of himself at us. When he goes to the right side of the screen, there's no way to attack him without getting hurt, so we're not going to do that. Now, before he throws that ball on the ground, he has a choice to make. He can either throw it on the ground or at us directly. And if we're hanging on the wall, he'll throw it at us directly, and it will damage us no matter how fast we move. So it's important to drop down after he materializes, so that way he throws it at the ground instead. That's pretty much the whole strategy to this boss fight, to use the environment to your advantage to dodge his attacks appropriately. It's actually a pretty cool boss fight with a pretty cool pattern. You have to repeat it, what, 9 times though? I think this is just so they made sure you couldn't cheese it. But yes, while this is happening, this game is pretty cool. All of the levels are a mix of linearity and non-linearity. You always have to find a certain number of things to switch on to progress, which requires some amount of exploration, but not too much. It's a nice balance. And in addition, all of the foes and the boss fights and the environment make good use of Spider-Man's abilities. Now, he doesn't have a lot of them, but the game makes good use of all of them. By the way, we can shoot webs at Mysterio, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't even stun him very long. Not long enough to hurt him. He just breaks out and then leaves. Man, I love the colors and the sound effects and the music in this game so much. Just look how bright and pretty and alive they are. I also find the health bars and their solid colors to be really satisfying to decrease. Especially since Mysterio is blue in this boss fight, and his health bar is also blue. So that was Spider-Man 2: The Sinister Six for the Game Boy Color, and it's pretty bangin'. I played it a lot as a kid, and I was surprised to find out that it still holds up so well today. It's really well designed, and the colors are so nice. And I recommend trying it. It's just fun. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you soon.